SoShine Media web series, where we feature persons from all over the region who are using their skills and their talents to make a positive impact. Today, we're meeting with Victor Joel Brooks, who is a Barbadian photographer, cinematographer, I said that already? Singer. He is so many things. He is multifaceted. And we are going to learn more about who he is, where he's come from, how he's reached the stage that he's at. Let's go. What has been your greatest struggle thus far in life?
My greatest struggle thus far in life. Well, the whole life. Right? Life in itself is a struggle, right? I'm not saying it from a bad point of view. I'm saying it from a point of view that there's always something happening. There's always one area of your life that's being attacked, and then when you've got that covered, then something else comes from the right, and then while that is still happening, something comes from behind, and you're like, what's going on here? So I believe though that God very much allows that for testing us, for helping us to grow. In fact, there are a number of different areas in the Bible where God specifically said, I will let them do this so that they may learn how to fight, or they will learn how to war, or I will let them do this to see what's in their heart, to prove them, whether they would do this or whether they would do that. So I believe God allows these things, and it's by design. And yeah, so I would say that the whole of life has been, it's just the complexity of it. Yeah, that's for me the challenge. Like, this can get complex. Yeah, it can get hairy.
Can you describe for us your religious beliefs?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, so that comes in various flavors, and they have a lot of denominations, and some people believe one thing and some people believe the other thing. So I'm a what you call a Christian. I am more Protestant than I am Catholic. I am more fundamental in my beliefs and so on. So I believe in Christ. I believe in the bodily resurrection. I believe he's coming again, So yes, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm not a spiritual Baptist. I'm not any of those things. So I'm a Christian, right? Yeah. So just classifying it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool, man. What is your most memorable high school or college experience or moment?
Moment? These questions, the most memorable. Like, I'm a very detailed person, and I would tend to think, no, I gotta go through all of them and then determine which one is the most memorable. I can give you two. One from my secondary school. I could give you three if you want to. But from my primary school days, there was a time I had borrowed something from someone, and I was supposed to give them back, but I lost it, and I didn't know where it was, and I wanted to give them back, but I lost it. So I would avoid the person for weeks, maybe, or I don't know how long, but for as long as I could, until one day I had to face it, and I had to explain, and from that time I have been very comfortable with confrontation. I've been very comfortable with, well, I shouldn't say from that time. That's one of the things that shaped me to be a person that doesn't run and hide. I find now that I live, a lot of people have not learned that lesson. So when there's something negative, or when there's something that is not something that they want to talk about, or they hide, they don't answer the phone, they do all of them things, right? And it's not cool. But we all learn our lessons at different times.
Yeah.
So I learned that one at a very young age, primary school. But sometimes people are still learning that lesson. It's an uncomfortable thing. But hey, I'm no longer afraid to deal with them and that, right? Even if I'm at fault or whatever, if it's uncomfortable, no worries, we need to do it, we'll do it. So that's one thing that shaped my life, I believe. Another thing was learning that I had to teach myself, right? So when I was at school, I was doing well at maths because I was okay at maths. But then when I got into certain form, I think I got a teacher that his teaching style and my learning style were not coming together. So when I knew maths was one you have to have. You gotta have maths and English.
Yeah.
So I said, nope, I can't. I'm not going down like this. So I spoke to my mom and said, like, I'm not really getting through at school the way I wanna with this maths. I heard about this teacher that was giving lessons. Let me go to that teacher. So I got my one in maths, right? But the whole idea of having to be responsible for yourself, responsible for your education, responsible for your, making strides in life and so on, that happened there. And then in community college, my philosophy teacher used to say that very thing. He used to say that we need to be students of our own learning, meaning we gotta go and do all the work, and do all the reading and read ahead, and be aggressive and proactive when it comes to learning, as opposed to just doing what was set on the table or what was set on the agenda or the syllabus or whatever, right? So he was very pro learn on your own kind of thing. So yes.
Cool. All right. So I'll speed it up a bit. What motivates you?
Well, a number of things motivate me. First of all, God motivates me, because when I read of God and I hear things, logic also motivates me, right? And the two together really make a difference, because when I see what God is like and I hear how he is and I understand his concepts and so on, though they may be difficult for me sometimes to grasp, or sometimes for me to actually perform, I should say, I still value them, right? If I see something that's better, I don't want to go back. I want to go forward, even if it's difficult. So when God is saying to me, hey, I need you to forgive, right? I need you to be a person that can forgive. When I think through it and I read through it and I consider it, and to see how much better forgiveness is than holding a grudge, it motivates me to go forward, right? Excellence motivates me. Beautiful things motivate me. Anything that is of high quality, or that is full of virtue, those things motivate me. Yes.
All right. So, what are your long-term goals?
Well, it depends on how long you mean.
The next 5 years.
Right. Well,
the
Bible says that we should not assume that we have tomorrow, right? So my first goal really is to make sure that I'm with the Lord. When the Lord says, well done, my good and faithful servant, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in these things, be thou rule over these things. So that's one of the things that motivates me, and that's also one of the things that is a long-term goal. Maybe very long. Apart from that, goals would be, well, you see, again, because life is so changing and you really can't put a time limit or a time thing on anything, I can't tell you what happened in 5 years, but I do know that I want to increase, get a better relationship with the Lord, right? I would like to get a good relationship with a wife, right? And I would like to excel in my endeavors, whatever it is that God has me doing, or the business endeavors that I'm doing, or the ministry endeavors that I'm doing. I would like to excel in all of those things, because that's what I like to do. I like to excel. I like piano. I like playing the piano and learning. I like learning in general. I like languages. I like learning languages and fooling around.
What languages do you know? How do you speak?
I am not great at any language apart from English, because I'm an English speaker, but I am not great at any language.
Okay,
but
what have you been learning then?
I've been learning Spanish, and I started learning French first, and then I switched over to Spanish, right? And maybe when I get more proficient in Spanish, I might learn some French as well. But I just like it. I just like the idea of being able to speak different languages and be able to understand different languages, and I like history as well. So I really am fascinated with the history, the colonial history that we have. Not that it was a good history, but I can see the imagery in my mind, and I like the cultural aspect that it brings. Because like when I go to St. Lucia or Guadeloupe or wherever, you hear them speaking, and you can just see, the evidence of the colonial people and so on. Even though I did get to go to Africa too, and you can hear the different languages. I just like it.
What part of Africa did you travel to?
I went to Nigeria.
How was it there?
It was amazing. It was very educational. It was a lot different than anything you've ever seen in that. I've been to America, Canada, and different places, right? But that was the first time I've gone to a big city that was a third world city, right? Marked difference, right? I was expecting maybe a metro station. I was expecting, I had different expectations, but when I got there, they were not what I had in mind. So, but it was really rich in terms of the cultural difference, right? And it was very moving for me. It really did feel like, you went back to Africa and you see all the people. It's like, it honestly did. And I thought, I'm not a mushy person that come with all these foolish talks and, try to fluff up stuff. But that's not. But honestly, when it was there, it honestly felt like, whoa, it all made sense. Like, they put us on a boat from over here, so the ship was crossed there, and the Caribbean made sense, and everything started to make sense, having made that little trip. So, you read about all these things, but like actually being there, I guess, it just makes a little difference.
Cool, you plan to go back?
Sure, once, wherever the Lord takes me, I believe I will end up back there at some point. There are many people that I get inspiration from, or that I am inspired when I see them, right? I'm not sure about role model, but inspiration, yes. So, Michael Jordan is inspiring. That is a man that, is like, hard to explain, but absolutely focused, absolutely in it to win it, and doing everything that's needed to do so, and carrying the whole team with him, and 100% positive, right? I like Brian Lara as well. Maybe not as solid as Michael Jordan, but I found, even though Lara had his challenges and he wasn't a perfect person, I found that he rose to the occasion. He stepped up to the plate. He did the best he could. Maybe, hopefully, but he did a good job, right? He showed up, right? And he shared his talent with the world, and he made a serious mark. It's not easy being the most talented batsman. It's not easy being the most, the man that everything is hinged upon. And as a young man coming up and so on, everything can be perfect. And I think that he did a decent job, right? I also admire Shaniece, All these are sports people.
Yeah, I was kind of.
I guess in sports you can see a lot, right?
Yeah.
But Shana Paul is that man that was solid and stable and faithful. And that's what I saw in him. And a lot of the things that Lara did and the others did, we kind of have done it without a man on the other side not getting no, right? And, you know, sticking to it. And Shana Paul was just consistent throughout his entire career, always giving us a 50, 100 here, 100 here, 50 there. So he was a real, you know, example of a person pulling his weight on a team, right? So I loved Shana Paul for that. Yeah, I mean, and there are other people, but those are the ones that come to mind, you know, straight away.
What's one issue in your country that you have a strong opinion on?
Right, okay. So I have a strong opinion on the education because, and I'm sure Barbados is not the only country that has this challenge, but I think that our education system is somewhat antiquated, or, you know, I don't want to say obsolete, but it's certainly not as efficient as I think it could be, and not as relevant as I think it needs to be. The world has changed considerably between when I was a student at you know, at my school, in my various schools, and now, right? And it's really changed, and I believe that it could have been, our education system could have been better when I was going to school, right? I find a lot of things that we need to know, we don't know when we leave school, and a lot of things we do not need to know, we know. Right, so we definitely need to know about taxes. We need to know about voting. We need to understand some level of political science, like some level of, you know, understand how the country works, understand how business works. These are things that you should know from a very early age, in my opinion. Understand how the world works, right? And I don't think our education system covers that. Maybe if you do business subjects, principles of accounts, principles of business, you may have a little idea, but even so, I don't think stuff is covered, and definitely not taxes. Tax is something we should learn as children, you know, that it exists, and, you know, how it is done, how it is calculated, that kind of thing. So yeah, I also think we should have basic life maths. So instead of learning trigonometry and all of that kind of stuff, we should understand how to deal with hire purchase, how to deal with loans, how to deal with stuff that everybody more or less is going to have to deal with. Not everybody needs trigonometry. A very small percentage of people need that, right? People that are into science, people that are into engineering and that kind of thing. So, you know, I think we can do better in making an education system that is more, you know, effective.
What are some of the businesses that you have, or some of the areas that you work with?
Okay. So I have a couple of businesses. I have education business, teaching. So teaching photography, Photoshop, videography, and more recently a music production course. I don't actually teach a music production course, a colleague of mine does. So we have that teaching business. We also have a recording studio, which we're in right now.
Yeah.
So we do you know, we can record advertisements, we can record songs for people, radio programs, whatever, right? I also do a real estate business where we buy and sell properties or rent properties and so on. And, you know, there's some other businesses that I am on the verge of, you know, getting into on a more full-time basis and so on. But for right now, yes, that's what we do.
How did you get into the businesses that you are in? Like, what happened there in terms of taking the direction that you did?
Right. Well, a lot of it was God's guidance, but a lot of it too was natural progression. So when I was in college, I did graphic design and photography as part of my college. That was my college degree, was in graphic design.
Barbados Community College?
Yeah, Barbados Community College. So the graphic design was our degree, and photography was a mandatory part of it, which I did, and I really liked it. So I naturally went on to do assistant work for my photography teacher, and then I naturally went on to do photography as a business. And I think with a little bit of encouragement from the Lord, I went back to the BCC, this time to teach, because they invited me to teach. So I went and teach. Hadn't known I was a teacher, but I found that out then. My students absolutely loved my classes. They were very happy, and you know, it was good to know that. So I ended up teaching. So I started teaching business because, you know, it was more feasible for me to teach from home and to operate from home as opposed to go to college, and you know. So I started teaching business. So that started, and then I was into music, you know, and I wanted to record. So it was costly to record at different places. So I said I'm gonna build my own studio. So I built a studio, and that's where I have a studio now. But then other people need a studio, so we made a business out of it. And I got into the real estate again. I believe the Lord's guiding, but I also had known a bit about construction and known a little bit about real estate from before, and it seemed like a good idea. So I followed what I believed to be the Lord's guidance, and I just started to get into real estate. You know, pursue the necessary, you know, education, etc., and just started.
What are some of the challenges that you find doing business here in Barbados?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I'm a grateful Barbadian citizen. I thank all the Barbadian leaders of the past for all that they have done. Arrow Barrow for giving us free education and leading us into independence, etc. And I'm very appreciative of all these things, so let that not be misunderstood. That being said, answering your question, I find that in Barbados we don't get it. That is to say, we don't get that time is money, right? I don't think our government gets that. I don't think, I know the government knows that. Everybody that knows economics knows that. But I don't think, you see, I don't know how to run a country, right? So, you know, I'm speaking just from my perspective, right? They know how much it would cost to revamp things and so on, but I just find that there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of wasting of time trying to get government processes done. A lot of things just take forever, incredibly inefficient in many ways, and there's myriads of red tape that you have to go through before you can get some things done. And I mean, you're trying to do a business to try to make money, but they got me out of my business, in here sitting down for days, multiple days, to get certain things sorted out so that I can do the business thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not making any money, and they got me spending money too. So I got to spend my money and spending this, and wait until I can get something to actually start the business. I don't think that's just not good. And so from a global perspective, that's one of my greatest disappointments with our current system. It's just absolutely too rigid, and you can't maneuver the way that you need to. I know you need to put things in place for security purposes. Not everybody's honest. Not everybody's trying to get on with a good business. Some people, many people, may be trying to get on with a bad business. So you need to have your security stops and checks in place. I understand that. But something needs to be done. It's not only our government, it's just the people in general. Don't understand that time is money. You have to be more efficient. Yeah, so that's probably the thing that I am most troubled by.
What advice would you give to a younger person?
Oh, right. So, to a younger person, I would tell them, first of all, do not neglect God and spiritual things. It is easy for people to write it off because of its nature. It is not always straightforward. It is not always, it is not always on everybody's mind, right? It is on a few people's minds. Everyone else generally is thinking laterally, earthly things. They're thinking about house, car, land, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And not everyone is thinking vertically, what of my spirit? what of these emotions, these feelings, this longing inside to to connect and that kind of thing. Not everyone is focusing on those things, and I think it is to the detriment of a man not to investigate spiritual things. Okay, good. So I would tell a young person, make sure that they don't neglect those things. I will also tell them to just that thing that I told you, be a student of your own learning. So take responsibility for your education and for your growth and for your fulfilling God's call on your life, because you can't leave it to other people. You have to be responsible for your actions and your behavior. And to a younger person, I will also tell them to learn how to deal with money from a young age, right? Learn a little accounting, the same commercial maths that I was talking about. Learn how to deal with money at a very young age. I would recommend doing business with every person at a young age. Just a small business, selling biscuits, selling newspapers. Do something that helps them to get to do some sort of business, because I find that business, right, it teaches you about the world faster and better than anything else. It teaches you about output and returns. It teaches you about, I can't just output, I gotta get something to output, so I gotta get the resources from somewhere, where the resources, and then I gotta call the phone book, and hey, there's a whole set of other businesses here, what are they doing? And it starts to help you to think about how the world works, because really and truly, say what you like, the world is largely about economy, right? And what money did what. So what country is doing what, and how prestigious a country is and what they're doing, largely all ends up being an economic issue. So people need to understand business, they need to understand money. Even if they're not going to be a business person in the long term, you could decide that you want to be a scientist, fine, but you still got to buy a house, maybe buy a car, manage your salary, feed your children. You need to have that practical proficiency in dealing with money.
Thank you for joining us, and remember, God didn't create you to play small. So shine.